Get a job. Why don't you just get a job? You look like you could work. Just go get a job. I assume you understand that getting a job isn't the same as picking a teddy bear off the shelf at Walmart. I hope you grasp that fact. And in fact, it isn't even as simple as walking into Walmart, going into customer service. Hi, I'd like a job, please. And then, here's your blue smock. Do this for the next 8 hours. And in 2 weeks, we'll give you money. Show up every day at X time, and we'll give you money in 2 weeks. It doesn't work that way. Okay? You do grasp that. Getting a job involves building a resume. And on that resume, it tells them everything they need to know about you. And when they read it, they decide that you look like someone that they want to have around, that they want to pay. So they're looking for a variety of things. They're looking for for indications of your personality. So they're paying attention to signs of your age, like if you're not allowed to lie, and you're required to tell them your education. That immediately tells them a lot about your age. The fact that I went to university late helps me look a little younger, but if they look at my high school, they can see that I'm a middle-aged person, which, is one of the things that most people don't want. But even when you're young, there are other things they don't want. They don't want large gaps in your employment. That indicates that you are problematic in some fashion. So if you've got large gaps in your employment from illness, mental health, family troubles, addictions, being an artist and taking time off and not recording it properly, I'm sorry that you're crooked. I will see if I can fix that. Now you're crooked the other way. There we go. So gaps in your employment record can happen because you were raising children. They can happen because you were taking mental wellness time off. They can happen because you were ill from any one of a range of things, from addictions to cancers to stupid stuff in between. Because you took a caretaking position for someone else, a spouse or relative. And gaps of over 6 months are noted and relevant. And that's why they ask your work history. They're not so much concerned with what you've done as how you did it. So through your resume or your job application, they draw a picture of you. And from that picture, they decide whether or not you're the person they want. That's how you get a job. You have the right job. You have the right 2-page snapshot of who you are, and they like it. This brings in a very large range of conditions that deny a person the ability to get a job. I'm going to use me as a case in point because I've been struggling with this problem my whole life, and that makes me an expert on the issue. When I was young, I was in a situation where the job market was dominated by people in their 30s. Youthful, but mature. Dynamic, but stabilized. They had experience, but were flexible. These were people who there was this huge bulk of them, a huge birth cohort. We call them the baby boomers. And so the market was dominated by them and had been dominated by them for the last 15 years. Excuse me. And I was crawling along behind, a literally invisible generation. We even lost the label that was temporarily given to us of Generation X. And we're this in-between cohort which gets lumped back and forth between Generation X and the baby boomers because we don't exist. We came out of school 10 years too late and 10 years too early. Within 10 years of my graduation, there were youth employment initiatives in place which were ensuring that people fresh out of school with no education and no skills and no experience were given opportunities that were planned for them and financed for them, and employer encouragements to hire them. But before that, there was this group of people who came out of high school where our parents were blue-collar workers, so college wasn't really an option. Getting a job at that time, the national joblessness rate, I think the unemployment rate was close to 10%. And certainly the place I lived was at 11%. So getting a job became, for anybody, it became an issue. I knew more unemployed people than I could shake a stick at. And for me, with my autism, or personality disorder, or whatever exactly it was, I've been since diagnosed with autism, but at the time, everybody just assumed that I was deliberately dislikable, or I have no idea. I never understood. I would ask people for feedback and I would get no correlating factors except "you're annoying," which is not useful information, because annoying is a generalized term that merely says I don't like you. You can't get useful self-development information from that. Anyway, I went through a large period of trying to fix this amorphous problem with my personality that was getting in the way of me and employment. And being constantly made aware of it, and the stresses of my youth, being, again, treated as a person who is now wanted there, has caused me extreme anxiety. So I developed anxiety and emotionality to the point where when I would open up the classifieds in the newspaper, I would do this. I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but I'm becoming teary-eyed and tense. And as a child and as a young woman, nobody had taught me to breathe. I hadn't been taught that yet. I hadn't learned it yet. I hadn't learned to slow myself down. I'm only just learning that now, in my 50s. Instead, I was taught that I needed to be more tense. I needed to exude vivacious energy, vibrancy, go-getitiveness. So one of the employment opportunities that was available to me as a trained artist was painting walls. And to a great degree, my early experiences with painting walls was painting apartments. I would move into these nasty little dives, and I would make them nice for myself, and I wouldn't get an increase in rent as a consequence. So I would be like, why doesn't everybody just paint their apartment when they move in, and then you could afford the cheap places where the landlord doesn't care. And as long as you don't paint it something that's extremely particular or, unusual. Let's face it, people like whites and creams and mauves. They don't like blacks and reds and purples. You might want to do that for yourself in an accent room, but there's no guarantee. If you're going to sell the place or re-rent the place, you always repaint over the loud colors, don't you? Okay. Or you hire somebody who's confident in their ability to decide colors and let them convince you not to. But anyways, this gave me a trade skill. But in order to employ that trade skill, I need to be very physically fit. I need to also have a lot of social confidence, because I need to put an ad somewhere, answer the phone on a frequent basis, and talk to complete strangers. And then go to strangers' houses and present myself as a trustworthy person, and then do a pile of math in order to give them a fair idea of what it's going to cost. And I need to do all of that before they will decide to hire me for a short-term period. And they want that job done fast because this is their home. They can't have me lingering for months and months doing a wall a day or something. If I'm only putting in 4 hours a day, they lose their confidence. And maybe the job only needs 4 hours a day, but they lose their confidence in me. They worry that I'm drinking or taking drugs or doing debauchery of some kind that I can't put in more time on the job. They don't understand my energy limits, or they worry that I'm going to pooter out and not finish the job at all. And besides which, very few people can afford to have their house in disarray for more than a day or two. So I have to be able to get those jobs done in a day or two. And then it takes a day or two to rest from that much physical effort. So, me as a person, I have massive gaps in my resume. I have massive gaps in my job history. I have massive gaps in my job skills. I do not have a partner with whom to work so that they can, for instance, help bump up the energy and do the sales. You know, they can help with showing up on the job and puttering about, making it look like something's going on when nothing needs to go on. And help me with the more difficult tasks that require very little painting skill. That would get me painting on a regular basis and supporting myself. But I'm not going to be getting one of those cushy desk jobs where you can have arthritis and cancer and the flu and who knows what else and not get your fingernails dirty. This is not going to happen. Those jobs, the jobs where you can be sick at work and like chronic illness, the jobs where you can take time off for sick leave or holidays, or where you could put away savings, those jobs are the brass ring of life. Those are the cushy golden bells. Those are the jobs everybody wants, especially when you can have it without actually having any skills. The cream jobs, they don't exist. They do, the way lottery wins exist. But seriously, buying a lottery ticket every other month gives me better odds than trying to go for one of those jobs. So the next time you look at someone who is trying to make money off of you somehow, whether they're trying to promote their online artistic attempts through Patreon or through one of these many overpriced merchandising sites like my Zazzle shop, or when you see them on the street with their hand out, don't just sit there and think, get a job. You have no obligation to give them any of yours. But you could be nice about it. They know you don't owe them anything. But you could be nice about it. Just be nice about it. Give where you want to give. Give as much as your conscience wants you to give. And stop. Because you're not rich either. You don't have some philanthropist obligation because of your privilege. You don't. Not even if you're white in America. You don't have that much obligation. You have as much as your own conscience knows you have. So you don't have to give. But stop throwing that get a job thing around, would you please? And when someone does, would you scold them, please? You don't walk up to a shelf in Walmart and grab a job off the shelf and walk out with something that you are definitely able to do, that will definitely pay your rent. It doesn't work that way.